Welcome, everybody. Today, we got a lot to talk about, obviously, reviewing the Oregon-Ohio State game from last Saturday night. There's so much we could have talked about. Going through this game, I had about 30 different clips that we could have broken down and told the story of this game because there was so much, not just in terms of the back and forth game flow, but schematically, there's just so much that we can dig into. So what we're going to take a look at today is we're really just going to diagnose a little bit more about what happened and try to tell a better story of the game. Obviously, the way the game ended with, three controversial plays, the offensive pass interference, the 12-man penalty that wasted time, and then Will Howard scrambling without any time left on the clock to run it out, really seems to have been obviously the main takeaway most people had from the game. I'm not really going to get into that today because I think that really kind of distracted from what an incredible game this really was last weekend in Eugene. Now, both teams put a lot out there on the field. Both offensive coordinators really had themselves a day. Did a lot schematically. Again, we're not going to get into all of it. There's just too much. This would take hours if we really wanted to break down everything. So I'm just going to pick a few things that really stood out to me, not only in terms of what Ohio State specifically should be, excited about, what fans should lean on and think about as they process the loss. Obviously, anytime Ohio State loses a game here at Film Study, we tend to get a few more clicks, a few more views as everyone's a little bit in their feelings. Now, we're almost to the next weekend and hopefully a lot of that passion, while it's still there, I'm assuming that, maybe the level-headed feelings have come out. And so hopefully that's a discussion we can have today. I definitely want to break down a few pieces we saw on the offense. Again, Chip Kelly was in his bag, as the kids would say. He had a great game plan. He actually went back to a few of his old staples from when he was at Oregon. We're going to talk about the spread concept, which was a passing play that he ran a ton with when he was with the Ducks and put out there in this game and the game plan. We also saw some power read. We're not going to get into that. We saw some interesting things formationally. We saw a T formation, right? We saw all kinds of great stuff from Ohio State schematically on the offensive side of the ball. And Will Howard really played a great game. I think that last run play really kind of distracted from how well he played for Ohio State. So again, the narrative's a little bit different. Defensively, obviously a lot to work on. So what we're going to talk about, and that'll be the second half of the video today. But we'll talk about what kind of went wrong and less so about the systemic issues that Ohio State has, because that's really what we're going to get into next week in next week's videos. What are those clear systemic issues that really needed to be fixed? One of the surprises we can get into, I'll give you a little hint, has a lot to do with the defensive line's lack of movement, not just in terms of getting the passer, but stunts, twists, slants. We got to see more from that, as you'll see in these concepts that I showed today. So let's dive in. What an exciting game. This is something I was pumped to dig into and really been talking a lot about these last 4 days since the game. So let's dig into it.
So there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, we went over that in the open, but one of the first pieces I want to discuss is how this game was a little bit different from some of the other games that Ohio State's lost in recent years, and some of the stereotypes about how they lost. Typically in the past, there's been this conversation about the inability to run the ball in short yardage, the inability to move when they have to be tough, get that tough first down. We all remember the Lou Holtz comments. This was different, and this was a very different game in that sense, and that's a huge credit to Chip Kelly. There's a ton of different run schemes we could draw up, like he's done every week this season. He had a unique game plan that really attacked what this defense does well. But there's one piece I want to call out because I think it's worth noting. We've got a 3rd and 3 here. This is an important first down Ohio State had to pick up. They would end up scoring on this drive. And you can see they're showing up here, to this play. They've got everybody bunched together. We've got 2 tight ends on the right side of our screen and 2 wide receivers on our left. Now, the first thing you're probably going to notice with those wide receivers is who the heck is number 82? That's David Adolph. He's a former walk-on, and we'll get to that in a second. But what this concept is, it's a simple version of duo. And duo, a lot of teams run it differently in the sense where they like to get 2 double teams, hence the name. But in effect, it's really just everybody's going to step down to one gap. They're all just stepping in one direction, taking the inside, or the gap to, if I'm a lineman, to my right, and I'm just stepping down and taking that way and trying to drive the ball carrier out. You're going to see the way that Quinshon Judkins takes the handoff, right? He's going to come around. He's going to start with a little counter step and come this way. And then he's really reading in this sense. They're going to leave this linebacker unblocked. And it's really up to Quinshon Judkins to read where that linebacker is and just make him wrong on this play. Now, the difference is you can already start to see we've got these 2 wide receivers. What are they doing here? they're really acting like pullers. And we've seen Ohio State do this more and more. You see this at the NFL level a lot. We've seen Emeka Egbuka in this role as kind of a pulling blocker. But in this sense, all they're trying to do is lead Quinshon around the hole. Now we showed David Adolph. Again, he's a former walk-on wide receiver. What's he doing in this role? Well, he's just here to chip this middle linebacker. Now, Adolph is 6'5", 209. Yes, he's a walk-on, but he's a big body. He's not a tight end. Will Kesmerick got hurt in this game. It's possible that he would have been in this role, and this is really the fourth guy they had there. But again, all he's being asked to do is just chip. Just get a body on him, because that's enough for Quinshon Judkins to fall forward. Again, this was 3rd and 3. All you're trying to do is just get that first down. Betcher, the middle linebacker, isn't able to hit him cleanly. He's not able to meet Judkins cleanly in the hole, which allows Q to fall forward. Now, these are those little things that in the past had bugged Ohio State. We saw it differently this game. There's a lot of different things we're going to talk about, but the run game for once in a big game like this truly was not an issue at all for Ohio State. One of the things that is going to be familiar for Ohio State fans is seeing their quarterback play well in a big game. Will Howard absolutely did that. I know there's discussion around that final drive and how the game ended. I thought he played tremendously throughout this game, made a lot of great decisions with the football, was accurate as a passer, kept plays alive, was dangerous in the run game, all those things. But how he was able to do that, I thought was really fun to point out, given that Chip Kelly, went to some of his Oregon classics from back when he was leading the Ducks offense. If there's one pass play everybody knows from that era, it was his use of spread, as he calls it, which is his version of Y cross. Ohio State's been running it for years. And between he and Ryan Day, I cannot describe to you how many ways they're able to scheme it up. Now, we saw that on display in this game, which was just fun. Oregon plays a lot of quarters. It's a great quarters beater. And the concept's very simple. You can see at the top of the screen, it's a high-low. You're looking to see, is the deep route going to be there? Is the corner bailing? Is there safety help over the top? If not, I'm just dumping it off to number one or to the underneath route. If those are both not there, I'm going to hit my crosser, the Y cross in this sense. And then if everything is shifted over that way, typically that backside dig is there. So as you can see to start, right, we've got the fake screen. Now, good on Oregon. They did a really nice job of taking away Jeremiah Smith on these little routes over the top. They did a pretty good job of bottling up. That's what the quarters coverage was for. They're able to keep a top on the defense. And they did a decent job there. So, we've also got this defender coming up and taking away the screen. So Will knows right away, I'm not there. There's nothing going to be with this my first route. However, because he fakes the handoff, and typically you get play action with this concept because these linebackers are already flying up because they saw the fake handoff to Judkins here. And what that allows is all this open space behind them for the crossing route, right? Look how open G. Scott is over the middle. Will Howard resets his feet, finds it, delivers a great ball. Now, as we mentioned, Chip was able to dress this same concept up in multiple ways. Now, we showed it where they hit the crosser over the middle. These are various different ways that they bring this concept to life. And again, they did it in different scenarios, different personnel. You can see that they're lined up differently. Ohio State is. We've got a 2x2 where they're bunched on the left side. We've got a 3x1 on the right side here with Jeremiah Smith isolated at the bottom of the screen. The defense is going to play two different coverages here, and yet they're able to make the same concept work. Now, one is going to read to one side of the field and one's going the other direction. But as we look at it, right, what we can see is this is going to be a very simple, we've got our high, we've got a low, we've got kind of a crosser, and we've got a deep. Now, they modify the routes based off of the coverage, and a little bit different. So again, we've got, how are we making these decisions? It's 1, it's 2, it's 3. This was on the first drive of the game, right? Now, again, they're in quarters, right? We can see the defense and how it lines up. We can see that they're playing over the top, right? They don't want to give this route away. They're playing conservative. They've got 3 over 2, so they're able to take that away. But yet again, what that does is it leaves this open space in the middle of the field. Now, Kesmerick probably could have bent it, but because of this inside leverage of the linebacker, Howard reads it properly. We've got this safety over the top, so Carnell Tate's going to keep pulling him away, because what we want to do is we want to leave this middle of the field open for that big crosser. And Howard just drops a dime in here. Now, of course, this ball, did it eventually get picked off as they were able to fall in? Great play from the defender. But just a really nice ball from Howard to see the defense, to recognize, anticipate the coverage, and just throw in a dime, right? Now we've got later in the game, we've got, again, two totally different formations. We're taking this same concept, and what are we doing? We are running high. We've got our 1-2. We've got a deep over. Got that deep dig, right? Very simply, 1, 2, 3, right? Now, the difference is Oregon's going to play a totally different coverage. They're pulling it right out of the Michigan playbook from last year, where it looks like it's single high, right? We've got this one safety, and maybe they're playing man coverage. Everybody's pressed up, but they're just feigning that. They're not showing. This was on the final drive, where Ohio State was trying to score with very little time left. And instead, what they're actually going to end up doing is something very different, where they're going to run a Tampa 2, right? They're actually running a 2-deep coverage that they're faking to look like it. It's, what we call a non-traditional Tampa. And again, this is what tripped up Ohio State the last couple years. Every team that they've seen this season has run some version of this defense, right? Now you can watch the way that they drop as they get here. Again, deep, pull runner, underneath. That's Tampa 2, guys. Didn't look like it initially. So what is Will Howard able to do? Because he's seen this so many times already this season, right? Every team Ohio State's played has shown it. Instead of just coming straight up, we get a nice route from Jeremiah Smith, who's actually going to kind of bend it out. Turns into more of a corner route. And meanwhile, again, Henderson is the underneath route that's going to pull the defender that way. Will drops back. He's got pressure in his face. The left tackle was new to the game, gets beat. But because this defender is playing from the inside out, Smith does a good job of breaking this off. The corner, of course, sees Henderson, so he's going to pull up. And what happens? We just get a beautifully thrown ball. Nice catch from Jeremiah Smith, keeps the drive going. Again, Will knows this offense. It was really impressive, and they kept designing this concept up in so many different ways. Just really impressive work from Chip Kelly and the offense to really get the passing game going in a big game. Now, we've talked about quarters coverage a couple times already. There's a lot of it in this game. We'll talk about how Ohio State employed it, both successfully and not successfully. We'll get there in a little bit. But I thought both teams had great game plans for how to attack it. It's what both of these defenses want to live in. And again, these offenses dictated the entire game. Let's be super clear. The offense held serve this entire game on both sides. And so, while people are complaining about Ohio State's defense, Oregon would probably feel exactly the same way had that last drive ended with a field goal, right? But what do I mean by quarters defense? So first off, it's really about handling two wide receivers, right? We've got 3 over 2 as we can see to the top, right? So if they both run vertical, the corner outside has number 1, the safety outside or inside has number 2. It's very simple. But if those routes change, right, where it's I'm running a post and I'm running inside, we've got a third defender there, right? These guys would both stay over the post. This underneath guy takes the inside crosser. It's very simple in that sense. There's so many different ways. You can call it different ways depending on what routes you expect. But the challenge here is we mentioned Ohio State was running the ball well. I want you to look at this defender underneath here, this apex defender as we call it. He's really the slot corner, nickel defender, star, depending on whatever name and nomenclature you want to use. He's kind of put in conflict here because we can see from the running back that he might be coming across. They want to get him in the run fit. They want him, if Will Howard's going to potentially keep and run around side like an option, they want that nickel defender to be the extra run defender. Because you can see, right, we've got 3 down linemen. We've got 1, 2, 3 linebacker. That's set up. This guy should be the 4th linebacker. If you're really thinking about a 3-4 and how it works, that nickel is kind of asked to do both. He's asked to be the third defender, this quarters coverage to one side, but he's also asked to be the run defender. And Ohio State knows that. And so what route concept do we see? We're going to see a post and we're going to see a wheel. And that really puts a lot of conflict on these two defenders because that post is going to be enough for this corner to say, okay, that's one vertical. I got to stay with him. And the safety is going to see it coming, and he's going to say, oh, I need to drop back because that's becoming my guy. And that's going to leave Emeka Egbuka all alone because this defender's watching the backfield. And it's a beautifully thrown ball, right? He creeps in. There is nobody there. That is a dime from Will Howard. We saw a bunch. there's nobody here as these two safeties both work on Carnell Tate, right? 4 is sitting here going, oh, shoot. And meanwhile, Emeka Egbuka is able to run straight for the pylon. It's a beautifully designed play, a perfectly executed route, throw and catch. Just, again, the offense has dictated this game. They were able to use the defense's rules against them on both sides of the ball. All right, last play from the offense. Again, there's so much we could have talked about in this game. I had 30 clips selected for this video, had to trim it down. We could have kept talking for hours. But the last clip I want to show, because again, I thought the narrative around Will Howard was unfair. I thought he played a great game overall. And this touchdown near the goal line was just an excellent example of why, right? So Ohio State, they're in a goal line situation here. They're going to run a simple route combination. You're going to see Egbuka come in here before running a quick out. You're going to see a little slant. He's going to start outside and try to come underneath. Got a little stick route, and then behind it, right? These are typical man beaters. They're expecting man coverage to actually get man coverage from Oregon on this play. You're anticipating, something so that you've got a man beater to the left, you've got a zone beater to the right with those two stick routes. So whatever Oregon's going to give them, they should have an answer for. But to the Ducks' credit, they actually covered up pretty well. You see Howard looking to the top of the screen here, and he's looking for that underneath. He's looking for Egbuka to get behind. It's really not there. And so he quickly, resets and turns and he looks and he says, okay, well, if I've got, this guy right here, that's not in the goal line. He's not in the end zone. And oh, by the way, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders sitting right over top. Even if I try to throw that ball beforehand, they're going to get swallowed up and potentially broken up. Now, his last option, as he resets one more time, is he's looking to see, can I get this to Carnell Tate in the back of the end zone? Probably not. He's probably not making it through the back here without one of those underneath defenders in the zone who's zoning up, expecting or without that ball getting tipped. He's going to have to throw it real high. And so Will essentially says, oh, shoot, the protection was pretty good. We'll show that in a second. And he's like, I just got to make a play. I don't have anything left. So he's got to keep the play alive. And that's when he's able to see coming across. Because, again, this was man coverage. The guy had outside leverage on Smith. Smith continues, does a great job of just staying open with a scramble drill, keeps it going, and Will drops in eventually that nice ball. Now, as you watch again from the end zone view, you're going to see great protection. Now, Zem Mikulski, who had a pretty solid game for a guy who wasn't expecting to play at left tackle after he replaced Josh Simmons, does a good job here in pass pro against Uiagalelei. Josh Fryer, he's just pushing this guy to the back. Good protection in the middle between the guards and center. Pretty good effort here. There's really no complaints in the pass pro. There was just nowhere to go with the football. So Will, that's why he escapes. That pulls number 4, that safety up, and you can already see Jeremiah Smith, streaking across to the bottom of the screen. And then it's just a great ball, right? So what do we see by this ball? I'll move the screen out. It's on target. What you worry about in this situation is you worry about a high throw. He's running, he's off balance, Will Howard is. You worry about that ball going up high, either missing the target or putting it up high enough that the receiver has to stop, and that allows the defender to make contact and break it up. Instead, Will leads the runner, puts it a little bit low, which allows him to kind of fall over and protect it. Touchdown, Ohio State.
All right, let's talk about the defense, which is certainly less fun from an Ohio State perspective, but credit where credit's due to Oregon. They did a great job. You can see Ohio State's lined up with 2 defensive ends on each end of the line. We've got this natural bubble there in the A gap and this natural bubble in the B gap. Now, those bubbles, specifically that B gap bubble between the nose tackle and the edge, that's really where Oregon, they made hay all night, especially in the run game. They were able to run the ball successfully through that gap, as you can see here. Jordan James takes off. How did they make this happen? Well, first off, it's an RPO. You can see that if there's man coverage, Denzel Burke's following a wide receiver across the formation, and we can see 2 guys to the right side here. They're going to leak out in a little screen with the tight end leading, and you're going to see 2 defenders in Ohio State side. They're going to follow. Cody Simon's following the tight end because he's manned up, and Jordan Hancock's going to follow Tez Johnson, the slot receiver, because that's who he's got in man coverage. Now, because of that, Dylan Gabriel knows we've got numbers. I'm going to hand off. But they don't just stop there. What Oregon does from a blocking perspective, it is a zone play that's meant to hit right. But instead of everyone stepping this direction and just cutting it off, you see a nice fold block where we get the the guard blocking down and pinning inside the nose tackle, and 72, the center, is going to lead through. And he's actually going to end up cleaning out the safety, Lathan Ransom, who he has about 100 pounds on. That's advantage Oregon, right? Styles isn't able to get through the wash to make a play. Corners don't even realize it's a run play until it's too late. It's not their job. They're in man coverage. Now, the reason you want to run that if you're a defense against RPOs is you've got a guy on a guy. So if they leave somebody out in coverage, they run a pass route, you've got somebody there in coverage. If the running back stays into run, you've got somebody there to take him on. And really, essentially, that means you've got a man for a man, and you're able to take it away. The problem is that an offense is able to dictate where you line up because you want like on like, right? You want to have a linebacker on a tight end, a linebacker on a running back, a slot corner on a slot receiver. You want, as we see from the wide receiver coming across, you want a corner on your outside receiver. You want to match personnel accordingly. That's the only way you play man coverage these days. And the offenses know it. And especially someone like Will Stein, who's really creative, used that to his advantage all night long. He's able to put Ohio State in compromised positions like this. They were able to get it so everybody else is to the right side. You can see all this personnel over here to the right side. We got an end, a middle linebacker, a slot, right? And then there's all of this space with a giant bubble. It's 3-on-3. That's advantage offense. We're going to make your safety come down. And not only are we going to make your safety come down, we're going to clean them out with a 300-pound lineman. So the offense has the advantage whenever the defense is in so much man coverage and they can see it coming. You have to disguise, you have to mix it up. Ohio State simply didn't do that enough in the first half against Oregon.
Now, Ohio State did adjust to that man coverage and the ability for Oregon to just kind of run at will in the first half. This is the first drive of the second half, and you can see already the difference as we get that receiver coming across. You're going to see that there's nobody that follows him. Yes, the defense shifts over, but there's nobody, Hancock didn't follow him across. They just shifted over a little bit. And that's a signal that, hey, this is zone. And again, you can see the running back starts on this side. He's going to flip around, and then he's going to take the handoff right through that same B gap, right? We can see this bubble right away, even from here, that there's a gap right there that Oregon's trying to attack. Now, the difference here is that as he flips around, the difference is no longer is Tuimoloau, and we'll show you from this angle, no longer is Tuimoloau looking to come upfield and box. Instead, he is attacking that gap, right? So now you've got these two guys inside. We've got a defensive lineman in that gap, in the B gap, defensive tackle in the A gap. That's a little bit different because now you're able to have Simon and Styles, who's off screen, come in to help bottle this up. Styles is actually the defender out here on the edge, and that's a nice, helpful way that Ohio State was able to adjust. Again, you see Tuimoloau come across the center, take away that gap. Simon's able to stay free. Styles is able to come around the edge, and they're able to bottle up the play for a short gain. Very different, a nice adjustment that Jim Knowles and company was able to make. Now, the problem with that zone coverage, as everybody knows, was you need to rely on your corners to make plays when you are playing quarters coverage. We talked about how that works when Ohio State had the ball. It's the same structure here where if we get a guy going, deep, that is on the corner to take. We get a guy going deep, it's on the safety from number 2 to take. And that only works because it's essentially man coverage at the end of the day. While it is a zone, and it's a zone for your underneath players, like your linebackers, they're not turning their backs to the ball. Your safeties are able to keep eyes in the backfield, and that's great against the run. It only matters because your corners are essentially playing, man coverage here. They're out on an island, and that kills you when you can't get pressure, right? We see Denzel Burke. He's got a nice little cushion here on Evan Stewart. Everybody knows what play is coming right now because you've watched the highlights enough. And, of course, Burke bites on this double move, and Dylan Gabriel drops the ball in a bucket. Just a beautiful throw from Gabriel. I think this is probably the most impressive game a quarterback's had against Ohio State. I mean, certainly Stetson Bennett was a great one, but maybe even going back to Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones obviously played well. This was elite quarterbacking that they played against, but it doesn't help when you can't get pressure, of course, which is something we'll discuss. But again, it was nice coverage here. It wasn't nice coverage, but from a pass protection coverage, part of the reason they couldn't get it, there's 7 men in, right? We've got the running back, we've got the tight end, we've got the running back. They both stay in to protect here, right? Eventually, the running back will leak out. Both of them do. But that is enough to help chip, right? That's the tight end up here on Tuimoloau with the right tackle. So it's hard to get pressure, and it's hard to get pressure from your other end when you've got the running back chipping him as well. And so part of the reason you can say, like, DNs have to get home. It's really hard to get home when you are facing double teams every play. And they were just able to run max protect. Oregon was, because they had faith that their receivers could win. And unfortunately, in one-on-one situations, against Denzel Burke, the guy most Ohio State fans wouldn't expect, they were able to win. That's a huge reason why this game turned out the way it did. Just need your cornerbacks to be able to sit on that island and protect you, unless you know for a fact you can get home. So even though Ohio State started playing more zone in the second half, in short yardage situations, unfortunately, they went back to man. And that kind of killed them, because you can see Oregon, again, throwing everything they can out there. They start in this double wing. They shift over. They put one tight end in the backfield. They bring a receiver in motion. This is all window dressing to distract Ohio State and mess up assignments. They're hoping they're in man coverage. And so what happens here is it looks like it's just a handoff to the middle, right? It looks like we've got a split zone with the fullback / tight end coming from the backfield is going to kick out. And so, Caleb Downs sees that. He sees the other tight end block down, and he's instantly going to fill this gap because he sees this handoff right here. This looks like split zone from the backfield. Ohio State's in good position, except that Jordan Hancock is not getting blocked. Now, this receiver in man coverage is running off the corner, so that whole area is vacated, and this tight end is not going to block Hancock. He's going to fade out into the corner. It's called an arrow route that he's going to run here. It's called, a bluff. A lot of people will call this option. Now, Jordan Hancock, poor guy, is getting read. He's like a defensive end in this situation, right? In a read option. The quarterback's just looking at him and saying, hey, you're coming up, and I know that I've got this guy out in the flat, and since you are coming up, I'm going to keep the ball and roll out. Now, Downs is focused on this, and the two linebackers, one of whom probably has this tight end in the flat, again, they're not even looking at the tight end. They're focused on stopping the run, and that allows this nice, easy pitch and catch over the top, right? Again, there's nobody here. The corner was following this receiver. There's nobody in this space. Let's watch it from the end zone view here, because as you can see, both of these linebackers are focused on fitting a gap. They're not focused on following that tight end. And that's unfortunate for Ohio State because, they're selling out to stop the run. Again, the toughness narrative, they're losing those types of games against Michigan, and Oregon uses that to their advantage. This is probably a play that they had never shown all season. Ohio State hadn't, known to expect, and credit to Will Stein and company for catching them off guard in a huge moment. Now, you would think that getting burned in man coverage and short yardage situations once would be enough for this defense, but apparently not. This is, of course, the play that everyone is, upset about. It's Dillon Gabriel keeps and runs a 30-yard touchdown, ultimately, putting Oregon up late in the game. Everyone is focused and upset that JT Tuimoloau is going to come upfield and just tackle the ball carrier and allow Gabriel to come around. Now, I want to show a little bit about how that's set up because I actually think Tuimoloau played a great game. He was credited with 7 pressures. He was easily the best defensive lineman for Ohio State and one of the better defenders overall. This is not his fault. This is just great scheme and a little bit of inattentiveness in the back end because, once again, Ohio State's in man coverage. Now, Lathan Ransom is the free safety on this because we've got man coverage across the board. Man, we got Sonny Styles on this tight end. We've got man, and then we've got Downs and the other linebacker. They are essentially, banjoing. They have man coverage. One's on the running back. Now, what happens here is, as we can see the play, you can see Tuimoloau is getting optioned, right? He is getting left unblocked, and his job, and we'll show from the back end here because it makes it a little bit more clear, he's going to get optioned and run through because he knows, and you can actually see Sonny Styles next to him. Look at the way that when they shift out, look at Sonny Styles talking to him. He's focusing with his arm. He's saying, hey, I'm here. Don't know exactly what the call is here, but JT Tuimoloau now knows that there is a defender next to him, which means he can go attack the dive. He can go after that running back because he expects that if Gabriel comes through, Styles is going to be there to take the quarterback. And again, he is left totally unblocked. Nobody blocks him down, so he's going to just go attack that dive. He's getting downhill. They're double teaming here. They're taking it. They're going this way. But what happens is that instead of allowing Styles to be here to take the quarterback, This tight end runs an arrow route, and Styles is in man coverage, so he's got to follow. There's nobody left, right? So when Gabriel pulls, it's great play design, and suddenly the only guy there who now has that quarterback responsibility is Lathan Ransom from 10 yards deep. The free safety on this play has to come up and make a play. He recognizes it late. He's watching everything else happen. You can see him shuffling his feet. He comes up, whiffs on the tackle. Igbinosun, again, is downfield. He's in man coverage. He's not really paying attention necessarily. And that's really, it's poor tackling on Ransom's part, but it's really just great play design. And I know nobody wants to admit that because that means that Ohio State got, whether, it's out schemed, there's no clear answer, what have you. You can fire Jim Knowles all you want. Against that play call, against man coverage, that play was going to work no matter what. Perfectly executed by Oregon. Credit to them. All right, this is the last play we're going to show because I don't want to belabor this point much further, but what we can see here, and this is just great quarterback play. It was great scheme. They use every tool, as we mentioned, and the last one we haven't shown a lot yet was tempo, and that really led to what was the final big play of the game for Oregon was the use of tempo. We can see everybody looking to the sideline here. They rush up to the line, they look to the sideline, they snap the ball, and they throw a pass over the middle inside the zone coverage here to the tight end. He misses or breaks a tackle, gets upfield. Ultimately, this would be the difference. This would set up what was eventually the game-winning field goal. Now, let's talk about the scheme real quick. Now, this is just a 4 verticals variation. It's 3-by-1. What Gabriel's looking for is he wants an isolation route to the top. Ohio State's given up a couple deep routes already, but luckily they are in quarters. So this guy's going to stay over him over the top. The tight end's going to have this little, kind of bender that he can break off. We've got this guy who's going to come deep. He can also turn that into a little stop route, another vertical route again. If they're capped, that's why some of these guys look like they're running almost like curl routes, because Ohio State, meanwhile, does a good job of staying over the top, right? Safety's going to help. Safety's going to help. Safety's going to help. The slot corner, all this. It's not necessarily bad coverage, if you will, in the sense of like the scheme, right? They're set up well to handle this schematically. So how does Gabriel actually get this ball off? Now I want to show the back view, and everybody's looking to the sideline, right? Everybody's looking. Quarterback's eyes are over there, and all of a sudden we get a clap. Ball snapped. Look at Ohio State's defense. We've got JT Tuimoloau's fixing his helmet. Tyleek's on a knee. Jack Sawyer's on a knee. We got both linebackers here just chilling. Cody Simon, the guy who's ultimately going to get beat for this pass over, right behind him, he's sitting there on his heels. They're watching. They use tempo so well. They had not done this all game. Again, watch this happen in real time. Everybody's just looking at the sideline. Yep, waiting for the play to come in, and suddenly we get a snap. Ball's in play. Ohio State's late. They're just not expecting to go. This has been, multiple plays within the drive. It's a good throw. It's a nice route. But again, Ohio State, they're slow, they're tired, and they're just got caught off guard, right? There's no pass rush. Again, everyone's angry with no pass rush. Well, they're not set up to rush the passer right now. Nobody's in his stance other than poor Ty Hamilton's the only guy who gets off the ball well, but he's getting double teamed by the guard and center, right? They're both taking him, so he's not able to do anything. Nobody gets any pressure. Gabriel's got all the time in the world, and he's able to drop a ball in over the top. So again, extremely well coached. They took advantage and used every tool at their disposal to attack Ohio State's defense. When Ohio State adjusted, Oregon had more adjustments in their back pocket, and that ultimately turned out to be, the reason that Oregon turned up almost 500 yards of offense. So certainly a lot for Ohio State to look in the mirror and wonder, what can we do differently? There's certainly a lot of questions on the defensive side, but got to give a lot of credit to Oregon. They really emptied the holster, if you will, and used every tool that they could. Credit to Will Stein, credit to Dylan Gabriel. I know Ohio State fans don't want to give that, but if Ohio State's going to get better, they need to recognize when an opponent's been successful and learn how to adjust to it rather than just get angry at themselves.